Guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Super Nerdy Gamer, and today we're talking about the Titanic. What about Titanic? The Switch conspiracy that you see all over social media and even in the daily life. I know a lot of my friends in school, they are like Titanic, like they're beginners of the history of the Titanic, and I have to correct them a lot because they are watching these conspiracies and believing that they are true. And I'm here today fed up with these conspiracies, or today just the switch conspiracy of the Titanic and the Olympic being switched. Now, for those of you that aren't aware of this conspiracy, I don't know why you aren't. If you really love the Titanic, you should know about this already. But basically, the conspiracy is that the Olympic was switched with the Titanic, her sister ship, so the White Star Line could purposely sink her on her maiden voyage, on Titanic's maiden voyage, and do an insurance scam to get her money to the White Star Line's money back because of some sort of permanent damage from her ramming a British ship, the Hawk. Now, first of all, the damage was not permanent. It may have been on the Hawk. The Hawk suffered it pretty bad, but the Olympic, it was just a gash in her hull. Now they quickly repaired this. The Olympic was repaired. She was set back on to doing her thing. She was not switched with the Titanic so she could be purposely sunk. Um, I don't know why people think that. There is a bunch of evidence that proves it didn't happen. And the evidence that you see on YouTube, well, that's only half the evidence. And I'll explain more. So basically, coming into the most popular one, the portholes and windows. The portholes and windows are the most popular one you will find anywhere. And the reason why is people are saying, oh yeah, this was changed, therefore, this is a different ship. And I want to explain a little bit. So on the left, you see the Titanic, not the Olympic. They're both the Titanic. Let me just get that straight. They're both the Titanic photos, but the left one is what they're saying is the Olympic renamed to the Titanic. So first of all, as we look at these photos, it says they're comparing where the name is below the portholes on the forecastle deck and how many portholes there are on the forecastle deck. And then they're saying at the very back on the B deck promenade, the thin, unevenly spaced windows for the Olympic, and then the large, evenly spaced windows for the Titanic. Well, like I said, these are both Titanic. And the reason why these are different in where the name is and how many portholes there are and windows, shapes, and spacing is because during Titanic's construction, after she was launched, but she was after she's launched from the gangway from the right, they still have to put her to a dry dock to finish construction because the gangway isn't big enough for them to do the whole construction. So after she's on dry dock, they were like, the engineers were like, let's see here. Let's improve the Titanic. Let's add more things to her to make her better than the Olympic. Because you know what? The same two ships doing the same two things. I mean, come on, let's make one luxurious. I mean, that's what we were going for these class ships, the Olympic class ships, is we want it to be luxurious, better than the Cunard line, not in terms of speed, but in terms of comfortability. Because we know the Cunard line was the White Star Line's rivalry uh, business. And the Cunard was all about speed. Yeah, we'll get you to New York, no problem. And I believe they had a ship already have the blue ribbon. And the blue ribbon is like basically you get the blue ribbon if you cross the Atlantic to New York the fastest. Yeah, and they already have it. But the White Star Line's like, no, we're not competing for it. We're gonna make 3 new ships. They're gonna be comfortable, and everyone's gonna want to sail on it. So after the Olympic, during her maiden voyage, right, there's a bunch of tests and redesigns they want to implement on the Titanic to make her better. Because of course the Olympic, she's like a prototype almost. They have to change. It's like what they'll. She's like a test. What goes wrong with this ship? What can we add to make her better? And they decided to change Titanic for the better. Now on let's start from the back forward, the back of this picture forward. So basically, they're saying the windows change in size and spacing. Well, Olympic, now Titanic currently in the gangway, is being built like Olympic was because they haven't thought of the redesign yet. But when she's in the water, they thought of the redesign and redesigned her. Now, the Olympic had an open promenade B deck, which means you can actually stroll the deck. Like there's space for you to walk, um, like all the way through. But Titanic didn't have that. Titanic only had it on A deck. Olympic had the promenade on both B deck and A deck. But on the Titanic, they changed that. It was only A deck because B deck, they had first class rooms to the wall, right? But they wanted more space, so they or not more space, but more passengers to be able to be on the ship. So they basically expanded the passengers' room to the very hall, the windows on the hall, and the rooms don't line up with the large evenly spaced windows, so they had to make them thinner and unevenly spaced to like fit the patterns of the rooms. And this went majority down the whole promenade B deck. But on the starboard side, they added the Cafe Parisien, which is like what I like to call it, the French cafe. And um, Olympic didn't have that because she had an open promenade deck. So basically, these windows are changing because of the redesign they've done so far, and the portholes on the below the forecastle deck, the 16 and 14 portholes. They are they added two more because the ship is a redesign, and I do believe they made Titanic slightly longer than the Olympic by a couple feet or so. And if they want to add more like portholes, maybe it's for like the crew because there's like crew spaces below the forecastle deck where like there's like a bunch of tables they can hang out and they changed it so that they can, you know, be able to see into the water better, maybe. Or maybe they just felt like, oh, there's something missing. Let's add a couple more portholes. And then the thing with the T in the Titanic name saying it's like underneath the third porthole, and then it's like in the gangway, it's like between two portholes. Well, if the portholes change below the forecastle deck, which is, if you don't know, it's the top deck on the bow, then the spacing of the windows are going to change, and where they are above the name of the Titanic is going to change. That's just common logic. And I mean, if you take out the portholes it's trying to compare to and just look at the where it is on the hull, on the spacing of the hull, they're in the exact same spot. No change. So let's go over to some more pictures. Now this one was just the one they were doing the 16-14 porthole thing. But here, oh wait, crap, I forgot. You guys cannot see my mouse. To the bottom right is the Titanic and the Olympic. Titanic on top, Olympic on bottom. The Olympic has 14 portholes on our forecastle deck. Titanic has 16, and they're just pointing that out. Now, the picture's really small, so you really can't see it. But to the top left, you have the Olympic on top and the RMS Titanic on the bottom, and they're showing you the changes of the ship. So basically, I'm just going to point a couple out where it's like the blue lines, the blue rectangles on the Olympic and Titanic are different sizes. And the reason being is because the Olympic didn't have the Cafe Parisien as the Titanic did. Titanic has the Cafe Parisien right where like the Olympics blue rectangle on the picture is. So there you go. So the green rectangle on the Titanic is extended larger than the Olympics. And as you see on Titanic's Promenade A deck, it's enclosed in the first half. As the Olympic, it's all open. So basically, there's just a couple. Of course, it points out way more stuff, and all those are and can be explained. Next, in the conspiracy, apparently after the sinking of the Titanic, or pardon me, the sinking of the Olympic, a survivor testimony that the Olympic was leaning to port a couple of degrees precisely 3 degrees. Titanic was actually listing 3 degrees on her maiden voyage. And the reason for that is because there was a coal fire. Yep, there was a coal fire a couple days earlier before her maiden voyage, and the trimmers, who are responsible for keeping the ship in balance using the coal, had to move all the coal from one side of the ship to the other because that's the only way you can put out coal fires is by moving the coal. Outs the reason why coal fires happen is a really long story. I don't really want to talk about it, but or maybe I'll talk about it in a different episode. But continuing, when they moved all that coal weighs a lot. I don't know if you've ever picked up a huge piece of coal, but it weighs a lot. And all those coals being shifted to the other side is causing Titanic to lean to port 3 degrees. Now, um, so there you go. I just like completely eliminated that thing. Now, the next one is a pretty good one if you don't know anything about Titanic. The ID number you could see on the propeller. Now it's on the blade at the top, sort of in the middle, and the numbers would be 401, but I believe you can see a 0. Okay, and the ID number, that's an ID number to the propeller. And on the Olympics propeller, before she set sail, there's an ID number 401, and they're saying that these propellers are the exact same propellers, and that is false because both these ships had ID numbers of 401 on pretty much everything in the ship. The furniture on Titanic had the number 401. There's bulkheads of the watertight compartments on E deck and F deck and a bunch of these decks that had the numbers 401. If you go into the third class dining room, you could see on some of the pipes they have numbers 401. Same with the Olympic. This was just an ID number for the parts from what factory they were coming from. And here's another example of a wrench from the Titanic having the numbers 401. There you go, even on duels. So then the last one is the California having cargo. Now remember, the California is the mystery ship that never came to save the Titanic. They say she had cargo of about 3,000 blankets and mattresses to help passengers that would be coming from a sinking ship. And the conspiracy is the California was next to the Olympic, so when the Olympic was purposely sunk, that the survivors can be transferred to the California, and they would have they'd be like, oh my gosh, it's a rescue ship. Here's the thing: the California is a very small boat, and she was made in 1901 of November 20th, I do believe, 26. How would she be able to carry 2,200 passengers and crew staying afloat? I mean, even if her deck doesn't go under because of the amount of weight she's taken on, I mean, the water would rise up at least about 3/4. Yeah, 3/4 of the hull, and because it's just so much weight, she would have major stability issues. She wouldn't be able to stay upright very easily on rough waves. And it's just, I mean, then you have the cargo and what passengers would carry on the lifeboats, right? It would be a lot. And she is not even a passenger ship. She's a cargo ship, like I said. She was made to transport cargo, and her cargo just happened to be blankets and mattresses sailing to, I believe, New York. One of those things. So, we are approaching the end of this video. Please put in the comments below, after hearing me talk about this, do you still believe the Titanic was switched? And if so, why? Is there things I missed on this conspiracy? Is there things I didn't cover that you want to hear? I'll make another video on them. Just put them in the comments below. I'll read them. And the last thing, guys, please, seriously, make a more educated guess knowing all these facts about this conspiracy. And I'll see you all in another episode. Goodbye.